Hi, this is Dana Stalder with Matrix Partners, here with Osama Badir, the founder CEO of Point. And I'd love to talk to you about being a founder. You're 18 months into a new project. How's it going? How has the last 18 months gone? What's
Well, so let me start with the personal side. I love it. I keep asking myself. I was just doing this on the drive into work this morning. Why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
I love every part of it. I love, I'm passionate every day I go to work.
It's great.
18 months in, it's only gone up.
Yeah.
I love the people I work with. I think one of the benefits of having your own startup is you get to choose who that team, and it is a second family, right?
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time with these guys, so you better like them.
Yeah.
And I think making sure that early group is the microcosm of what you want to create when it gets bigger is critical.
Yeah.
It makes it so that you love coming into work every day. So anyway,
Yeah.
I love it, and I think it's going great. It's my first time, first time in a long time. I did something when I was 17, but so I'm still learning here.
What's gone as expected, and what has not gone as expected?
I've been a little bit fortunate having started this later in my career. Yeah, I've been at a few really great companies, so I've met a lot of talent along the way.
Yeah.
Everybody told me how hard it would be to find talent. I've found it a little bit easier than I expected.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just my network, network of my network, the people that we've hired. We end up hiring people that we're all very confident about. We keep the bar really high. But we've been able to do that fairly well, and it's just
good.
naturally happening.
Yeah. So that was a little easier than you thought.
A little easier. Raising money, I was fortunate. I found this guy that believed in me early, and I didn't have to do and I took that offer to a few people I know, and they told me, hey, take it, run, don't waste any time. The most important commodity is time.
Yeah.
In a startup, you don't want to waste any of it. So it's actually both our rounds have been better than I expected, and so I feel a little bit lucky in that.
And you bypassed the traditional seed round.
Which
is kind of the strategy du jour for the first time founder.
Yes.
Tell me about what's your advice to young founder who is trying to figure out how to capitalize their first business.
You mean in terms of trying to skip it, or how should they go through?
Are you glad you skipped it? Do you wish you'd done a seed?
I'm very glad I skipped it. I think I could have easily lost it. Timing was critical for our startup.
Yeah.
But there was no time to lose while we were staring an industry change in the face a year and a half out.
Yeah.
We were also building hardware, and so we wanted to move very quickly. I could have easily wasted another two years just trying to get to the point of starting.
Yeah.
I'm very glad, and actually I wasn't planning to skip it. I was going to go through it. It was your advice to, hey, don't waste the time. If you can get it now, go.
Yeah.
I'd say having somebody help you flesh out the idea. You and I spent quite a bit of time on the whiteboard before I even kicked it off, and it helped me not only confirm my views, but also adjust the areas where I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, my partner Josh, who's a serial entrepreneur, says this all the time, which is ideas are actually easy to come by, but great ideas are really hard to come by, right? So it's that process of actually figuring out, is this a great idea, or is it just a good idea? It's one of these subtle...
And as a founder, honestly, you don't know, right? Because you can convince yourself. So bouncing it off of others who are critical, that will tell you the truth. Because that's also part of the casual. Unfortunately, your family will tell you you're the greatest thing. And you've never come up with a bad idea. Your friends will tell you, hey, let me invest money. And they could convince you that you're onto something you're not. Finding people who are willing to be critical. And I'll also be honest, there are lots of people in the VC community that want to be nice and won't tell you whether it's a really good idea or not. So finding someone who's got credibility, who understands the space, who's willing to be critical and tell you whether you're onto something or not. Also, what I feel part of what helped me is these were long-held beliefs and insights that I had built up over 4 or 5 years. that I finally decided to act on. Yeah. It wasn't something I came up with yesterday.
Yeah, I think you do definitely have the benefit of working. You're working in a category
that I've been in for.
You've been in for well over a decade, right?
So and I've succeeded and failed. Right, you learn a lot from failures. Succeeded and failed in different. So you take those insights and you build on them. I think that's really important as opposed to an area where you're not sure. Yeah. There are other ideas I had, but I don't think I would have ever been able to start.
You're only 18 months in. You're pre-revenue still, so
early days.
Early days, but anything you wish you'd done differently in the first 18 months?
Anything I wish I would have done differently? That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever had time to think about it. There are a lot of nuance. Look, a lot of small things that I would have done differently. I probably would have been even more aggressive on reaching out to my network and my network's network. I think it's probably easier to think about. Oh, I need I need a front end engineer. I need a back end engineer. I need a database engineer. Let me reach out to the folks I know. What's not as obvious is let me reach out to them to see who else they know. And let me be aggressive and let me turn that into a process. And let me hire ahead of my needs, or let me at least interview ahead of my needs so that when I need people, I can pull them in. Yeah. There are a lot of parts to this project that had to wait for somebody to start that I wish I was a bit earlier on. Backup plans. I've learned to put backup plans, sometimes backup plans to backup plans.
Give us an example.
Well, I don't want to give too much of our secret sauce away, but
around product design or something like that.
Around product design, especially component selection, and in hardware where undo is very expensive.
Yeah.
Who are you going to bet on? How solid are they? How reliable are they? How much everybody overpromises in hardware. Every component maker tells you, oh, it does everything. And then when you actually get into it, it's like a quarter of what you thought, and it's it's skewed a little bit. So confirming all of these things up front, I would do a lot more diligence on any dependency. I'd also reduce my dependencies on outsiders. Yeah. I think it's naive to think you could do this without any dependencies, especially in payments, but reduce the number of dependencies as much as possible. You hire great engineers and they can move very quickly and move mountains.
Yeah.
But you can have those great engineers standing by for weeks, waiting for somebody outside to do something that doesn't move at Silicon Valley speed, that doesn't understand how important it is, that isn't as passionate, and so on and so
forth. Now, your business is relying on banks to distribute the product, which is in the category of dependencies, that's
pretty high.
That's a pretty high one.
I can't undo. That was a critical insight.
Yeah.
But I had also, before I even started this thing, gone to the top 5 CEOs of the top 5 acquiring banks and vetted the idea and asked them if they would do it. Yeah. And I got enough confidence to the point where I knew if I executed, they would come along.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I was selling before I even wrote a line of code,
I think that's a really important
that was critical, because it would have taken the year and a half to get to this point.
You don't want to find out.
Yeah. If I had built it and then started this effort, I'd be another 2 years out.
Yeah.
I completely agree. But a lot of learnings along the way. I've learned to also let go. I'm kind of a control freak. As a founder, as opposed to an executive, your responsibilities are endless.
Yeah.
You got to do everything. Anything that no one else is doing, you got to do. Sometimes I'm soldering things. Sometimes I'm writing code. Sometimes I'm doing the bookkeeping. But it's not often the high value things. It's not the things that are best use of my time. So letting go of these things. I told myself, don't hire an engineer. Don't hire anyone that's not an engineer for the first year and a half. And then 4 months in, I got introduced to a great non-engineer. And I was very skeptical. Or like, no, I want this to be an engineering culture. And I was convinced to try it out for 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, the guy was so amazing, pulled off a lot of the things that I was wasting my time on. That I hired him right away. So I've learned quite a few things along the way as well.
That's good. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.